For old-fashioned recipes and your gardening needs, while sipping on Kentucky bourbon. You sit right back in your big red hat, we're taking rural back from the urban. Listen to the stories where Kentucky proud, share the giggles with all of your friends. You all are tuned in to Friends Drifting.
Hi, I'm Joyce. Welcome to the 8th episode of Friends Drift In, your farm-to-table connection in Eastern Kentucky. Today is episode 8, and we're dedicating that to the folks of Morgan County, West Liberty, the Sorghum Festival, Appalachia, so identified with sorghum. And today my guest is Matt Jamie. He traveled all the way here from Louisville, had a big scenic tour coming down. He is known as the king of sorghum. He has put Appalachian sorghum on the map internationally, and it is a thrill. I mean, it really a thrill to have Matt Jamie from Bourbon Barrel Foods with us here today. We've had quite a few recipes that we're lining out for you. And so rather than go on with a lot of conversation, we're going to jump right to it. One of the first ingredients we're using today is popcorn. Kentucky is known as the third largest producer of popcorn in the United States. You can plant popcorn here in Appalachia, but if you plant it, you do not want to put it in the same field where you're using your regular corn because it will cross. We used about 8 ounces of unpopped popcorn to achieve this. And before we started, we buttered the bowl because we're going to put a lot of sticky in here. So what are we going to do, Matt?
I think the first thing we're going to do is melt some butter.
Butter right here.
Use my hand here.
That's good.
Give me one of these spoons.
We say barn rules.
Barn rules.
Barn rules.
All right, we got the front one here.
Yep.
Get that butter melting. And you're going to walk me through this.
Yep.
I think you're more familiar with this recipe than I am. I just picked out the pretty picture.
Well, this recipe came from Lytton Hopkins. Lytton Hopkins is one of the most notable Southern chefs in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. What's the name of his restaurant?
Holman and Finch is the name of his restaurant. And he is James Beard Award winner from last year. He actually shared it with the Unibrow from Top Chef.
That's right.
I forget his name.
Oh, yeah, we won't talk about you. Then we're adding 2 cups of sugar.
We're going to do this all at once?
Yeah, go ahead and add that sugar right in there.
Magic of TV here.
Yeah.
All right, sugar's in.
Kind of stir it a little bit just so it doesn't scorch on the bottom. Then we're going to add Matt's Bourbon Barrel Sorghum. Now, Matt, what makes your sorghum special?
Well, the sorghum I buy comes from a gentleman in Jeffersonville, Kentucky. His name is Danny Ray Townsend. His sorghum is hand harvested.
That's Morgan County, y'all. Go on.
It's hand harvested. We had one food writer describe it as estate grown because he only processes what he grows. When
they harvest the cane of sorghum, they use a machete. So, I mean, they chop it.
Mm-hmm. Ours is preservative free. And that's because of that, and there's no pesticides used in the growing of it. There's a lot of weeds that grow up in there, so they have to hand harvest it to keep a lot of the grass out of there. That's not the sorghum.
So that's good.
Good.
Turn your heat down just a little.
All right.
And whenever you're measuring sorghum, you always butter your dish. Because as you butter it, then you don't lose the goodness. And when you talk about the acreage of sorghum, you know, for every 10 gallons of juice that they squeeze, you only get 1 gallon of sorghum. So it's precious.
This is a new trick for me, so thank you.
So this
Look at that, slides
Morgan
right
County
out.
sorghum, yep. How we looking there?
It's coming together.
Stir that in just a little bit and leave it alone.
Good.
We're going to boil it. I'm going to crank up the heat. We want to get this up to about 240 degrees. And that'll take about 4 or 5 minutes.
You want the thermometer in there now, or you want to wait?
No, because you'll burn your fingers. Trust me on this.
I have asbestos hands.
So while we're waiting for that to cook up, we have the buttered bowl and the popcorn. Then we're going to add bacon.
Makes everything taste better.
1.5 cups of chopped bacon is what they recommended. I did 2. You know, you got to have bacon. 2 cups of roasted peanuts. And you just kind of mix that up, Matt. Yeah. I did it with my hands earlier.
Can we cut away to me washing? I like using my hands.
I like using my hands too. And that's
Make
the
a
biggest
mess.
bowl I had that was clear because I wanted everybody to see how it was doing.
So my daughter had mystery box today in 2nd grade, and she chose a kitchen tool that she likes to cook with.
And what was that?
It was a whisk.
Oh!
And one of her clues was, I like to lick it when I'm done using it. It's my
Bar
girl.
rolls.
That's my
Bar
girl.
rolls.
She
So we have
loves
to
her
use together.
sorghum too. She really loves sorghum. It's our secret ingredient in everything from pancakes.
Well, when you have your sorghum, I mean, your sorghum has got some bourbon flavoring to it. And
We
how
do.
do you achieve that?
Well, we add bourbon to it.
Okay.
There's a few things that we discovered when we were marketing our sorghum. One of them was that if we were going to get it outside of our region, we had to almost reinvent it, remarket it. You know, everyone in the South and in Appalachia knows that they use it at breakfast. You know, it's a staple ingredient at the breakfast table. But if we wanted to sell it outside of there, we had to market it as a gourmet condiment. So what you'll see us do a lot of times is drizzle it on cheeses. You know, we use it in...
We're going to do that in a little bit
Yep.
later.
Nice, simple application, but you get to taste the sorghum, you know, and people these days are really drawn to Southern foods for a number of reasons. But sorghum, in addition to being charming and romantic in the story and history
And
that
we
it
don't
has,
think about sorghum being charming and romantic. We think of it as, that's just what it is.
Yeah.
But away from here, there's a big excitement
Yeah.
about sorghum.
there's a huge excitement about it. I've shipped it to Eric Repair at Le Bernardin in Manhattan. I've shipped it to Michael and Brian Voltaggio. I've had Edward Lee from Louisville, 610 Magnolia Restaurant, use it on Iron Chef as well as Top Chef. And the only time he won on Top Chef was when he was using sorghum.
It sounds like you're really big time. But what's
I've-
your motto?
Slow, small, simple.
You're a family business.
It's family business. My mother and my father both work with me. My kids come in twice a week.
You're doing good. It's good.
All right.
So we talk about how did you get started doing this sorghum thing?
Well, sorghum, I was a chef in Florida, and the chef I worked for loved to use molasses. You know, I'm from Kentucky. I wanted to use sorghum.
Molasses, y'all, just so you know, molasses is a byproduct of sugarcane. It's from Louisiana. We don't like it. We like sorghum from
We do.
Kentucky.
Sorghum is milled from sorghum cane. It's very rich in antioxidants,
Right.
very healthy.
This is
but
what a cane looks like, and we're going to talk about that in another segment.
great depth of flavor to everything that you add it to.
Kind of woodsy and spicy and a little smoky.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of a natural spice to it. You know, we describe it as earthy. You know, it's got a lot of earthy tones to
It
it.
smells like fall in the mountains.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Um,
How are we doing over here? Give it a little stir.
well, Linton said not to, but I always do.
Let's just move that butter around.
Yeah,
'cause
just
that'll-
move it a little bit, and let's crank it a little bit.
So one of the things where
There, it's getting ready.
we were successful with getting sorghum onto the shelf of Williams-Sonoma nationally, and Dean and DeLuca, in talking to the guy that grows my sorghum, Danny Ray Townsend, you know, he's like, I'm a grower, I'm a farmer, I don't have time to market this product. You know, and that's where, you know, we kind of stepped in.
So we talk about, on Friends Drift In, we talk about taking the rural back from the urban. And you think about sorghum, something so simple here in Appalachia, but that people around the world are getting so excited about. And you've started really small, and you've taken a product that is so indigenous to Kentucky. You worked with the Kentucky Innovation Center in UK, is that right?
Yeah, I worked with them
So
as
we
well
ha-
as, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, the UK Ag Economics and Ag Marketing departments.
So we have those available to us. So figuring out a product and getting it to market, UK can help us with that.
UK can help
Start
you.
small and grow.
Grow. Marketing is always, key to getting a new product out there. But what I did was utilize every free resource available to me to get my products out there. Service Corps, retired executive. Every community has one. Small business development centers, they're available.
We have one, the Moorhead Center here. That's with Mike.
Local universities, whether it's with
and
help.
the Chamber of Commerce. We have the Southeast Kentucky Chamber of Commerce.
And they'll help with a business plan. And business plan is key.
All right. You want to add a pinch of salt.
I always have a light salt hand. Is that good enough?
That's good.
All right.
You want to add a little bit of vanilla, about a teaspoon. Now, when we talk about vanilla, Matt has a whole lot of different products, and we're not really here to talk about his products. But one of the cool things is that he uses bourbon barrel staves. About a teaspoon. Throw it in there.
There we go.
Now, here's where the magic happens. Y'all ready for this? About a teaspoon of the baking soda, Matt. Now, I'll take a spoon. You got a spoon handy?
That's a teaspoon.
All right. Well, stir it in there a little bit.
All right.
And watch that foam. Now, that'll foam up here as we go.
You want more?
All right. Yeah, just a little bit. It'll come. It'll come. There you go. You can see it around the edges. You see if you're looking at the edges, you can see that it kind of poofs up. Make sure it's smooth in there. Then we kind of turn this off. This should be, I can tell by the shape, but you could use a thermometer and it would be about 240 degrees. And then
That's 240 degrees.
Matt says he has asbestos hands. Pour it in there.
All at once?
All at once. Gooey, ooey, gooey mess. That's what we like. And then just stir it in there real good. And this was tricky.
Can I use my hands for this time?
You will burn your hands. When I tried this recipe out before y'all got here, it is hot. This is a lot easier than doing popcorn balls. Popcorn balls, you got to really work with them and do them. And this one, after we get this stirred up really good, we just spread it on a greased pan.
Get all that from the bottom up on top there.
Yeah, get it going. Gooey and gooey. And this is popcorn and bacon and peanuts and sorghum and a little bit of brown sugar.
This just screams the month of October to me.
It just screams yummy to me. You kind of pat this down, spread it out pretty good. And I just used a regular baking pan that was greased. We're going to cook this off for an hour at 250 degrees. I'm going to stick this in the oven. And we'll move right on to the next project, Matt.
All right.
Oh, we forgot. Usually I add a sprinkle, and I'm going to do that in the break, but I'm going to add a sprinkle of a dusting sugar. Matt makes a bourbon smoked sugar. You use the bourbon staves, right? Bourbon barrel staves.
We do. They've been used, so the barrel staves we're using have
And that's why my hands are black, is because I was playing with your staves.
The bourbon is soaked into our staves for 7 years. We use Woodford Reserve barrels.
And but anyway, so our next project is the
So
pecans.
these are our bourbon, vanilla, sorghum, spiced pecans. We love to do these in the fall, especially around the holidays. Really simple.
Great for cocktail parties, great for informal gatherings, tailgate.
Absolutely. And this one, super simple. My daughter makes these with me all
How
the
old's your
time.
daughter?
She's 7.
And you have a son?
I have an 8-year-old son. He's not the foodie of either one of them. The boy likes everything that's brown breaded, deep fried.
There you go.
Biscuits. When we go out to eat, he and I, it's always fried chicken, which is delicious, but not every meal. All right, so we've got some pecan halves here. It's right in the bowl. We have our sorghum. I have two. We have a pure cane. We also do a bourbon vanilla one, which would go nicely in here.
These are available locally We always talk about Morgan County sorghum, but this is a Morgan County sorghum as well. This is available locally at Mickey's Menagerie downtown on 2nd Street. And if you want to sample the products as they're already cooked up, we can go to Chef Nathan over in Abington at House on Main, or we can go downtown Pikeville to see Matt Corbin at the Blue Raven. And he uses a lot of your paprika in his...
We ship a lot out here. We do.
Chicken.
We really do.
So.
We used about a half cup of the sorghum. I'm going to do a big pinch of the bourbon smoked sea salt here. The pepper, bourbon smoked again. Just not quite as big of a pinch as with the salt. I'm going to use the paprika as well. Again, this is a smoked paprika.
Now the paprika, Matt, this is my big thrill. Y'all, it's got that earthy, and paprika is made from peppers. Can you see it? It's made from peppers. And they grind them up really, really fine, like almost like a chili powder. But it's not quite as spicy as chili powder. It's kind of mild, and then it's got this earthiness. As you said, earthiness, a little bit of chili, but not a lot of heat, but still a little bit of spice.
There are two varieties of paprika out there. There's the Hungarian one, which is just a variety. It's generally sweeter and not smoked. The Spanish variety is typically smoked, and they smoke it over oak. So there's a similarity between ours and theirs. And sometimes theirs is very, very spicy. We like to use a lot on here. And then our bourbon smoked sugar. Take a big pinch here.
I like to use this sugar on the top of cookies. It's got any kind of, it doesn't have to be Matt's. We like Matt. But any kind of this type of sugar that's got a very large grain makes cookies really sparkle. And we talk about sorghum cookies down in the fall, and I can't imagine sorghum cookies without some sparkling sugar on the top. And so you've got another ooey gooey mess here, Matt.
A little bit here. And I love to sell my sorghum, but I love the attention that sorghum is getting as a whole.
And when you talk about Mike Latta down at Fig, has been talking about it. All of the major players are talking about sorghum. And it all started right here in Eastern Kentucky.
Is the leading producer of sweet sorghum in the U.S.
And that's huge.
Seeing it in the New York Times as a feature in their food and dining section, seeing it in an NPR story as a feature, having food writers call and specifically ask to talk about sorghum. It's great for me to be able to say, I will talk to you about my products, but you need to talk to this grower. He's going to give you all the details.
Put that right on there. Now we're going to put this in the oven for how long, Matt?
About 5 to 10 minutes. The oven's going to be at about 375. So all we're looking to do, because these were raw pecans, we want to see them turn a little bit white, which means that they're cooking.
And how long will they cook for?
The sugar will caramelize on top. They're 5 to 10 minutes.
All right.
We're going to just keep taking a look at it.
Okay. I want to take a minute and talk about just what is sorghum. Kentucky, the largest producer of sorghum in the nation. Is that what you said?
Yes, always has been.
Sorghum grows, got a lot of tiny little seeds. Now around Morgan County, they raise two different types is what the favorites are. They raise one called Keller, and they raise one called Dell. Now, we say it Dell, D-E-L-L, but it's Dale, D-A-L-E. And those two particular ones were developed down in Mississippi back in the 60s. They were picked because of their yield. When we talk about a sugar cane, Matt, this is the one.
That's the one?
That's the one. We talk about sugar canes. Canes will grow about 10 to 14 foot tall. Now these two varieties, Dale and Keller, have been selected because they don't lodge. Lodge means that if they're standing in the field and the wind comes through, they fall. So we don't want them to lodge, and they have a really high sugar content.
They do.
And what's fascinating to me, I did not know this until this past weekend. I was at Taste of the Mountains, the UK Robinson Center down at Breathitt County. And they were showing how the sorghum has such a high sugar content. They actually use a refractor and look at the sugar through the refractor. They'll take the juice, put it on the machine, and you look through it with a little telescope, and it tells you how sweet it is. And you want to get around that 15 to 20, but that's the same thing that they do for grapes. So maybe we're the next Napa Valley right here in Appalachia growing sorghum.
We are.
When I think of sorghum, I think of them cooking it off.
Yeah, well, I've seen Danny Ray use a refractometer, but I've also seen him just go in the field
and peel it.
Peel it off, twist it, and just suck the juice right out of it and say, this one's ready to harvest.
Well, is it ready to harvest, y'all? When you think about the way they cook these off, these are they're cut in the field, then they run them through a press that squeezes the juice out. Yep. And then it goes through what they call an evaporator. Now, at home, I'm from northern Kentucky, we called it a chase. But it's an evaporating, and it'll come through and it'll come out just as green, and as they run it through the steam process and it cooks down, it'll start turning brown, and that's when you really get the goodness and the sweetness of the sorghum.
Yeah, the one thing I noticed is that the technology in making sorghum really hasn't changed too much in the last 120 years.
Same as it's always been.
Danny Ray's farm, we went and documented the harvest a couple of years ago, and the crusher that they put the stalks through had the date on there, a manufacture date of 1891, and he's just, it still works. It's belt driven. Put the stalks in there, and the juice is extracted, caught, put into a tank, and then the rest of the stalk is loaded up onto a flatbed. Sorghum is one of those 4F crops that farmers like. It's food, fuel, fodder, and fertilizer.
Right, we talk about biofuel with sorghum, and
so they'll use every last little bit of it.
Every bit of it. The Breaks Interstate Park will be having a sorghum cook-off on October the 13th. If you never heard of the Breaks, it's kind of an interesting thing, Matt, because it's a interstate park in that we share it with West Virginia and Virginia. It's one of the few in the nation that are like that. Doing that on October 13th. On October the 27th in Lexington, the Incredible Food Show is going to be setting up an exhibit where they'll be cooking off sorghum. If you have children, get them out and let them do this. This is the coolest thing, just to watch them cook it off. Don't think a little tornado can keep the people of eastern Kentucky down. Down in Morgan County, down in Montgomery County, sorghum still happens. And I'm proud to be a hillbilly, and I'm proud of the people of our community who have come together and continue to produce sorghum in eastern Kentucky. And I'm proud of Matt Jamie, who makes sorghum around the world something that everybody wants, something that we take for granted, but the rest of the world thinks is a real treasure. We made a lot of different recipes today, and we're going to jump into a couple more. Matt, what are you going to do with this? What do we got?
Well, this is something that's really simple, and probably the most difficult part of it is opening up the pack of goat cheese.
Right. Now, this brand is available at Food City locally. You can also look for a Kentucky Proud product called Bluegrass Chivry, and that's made in wrapped up around Lexington. But it is a goat cheese. Goat cheese. Tell us what goat cheese tastes like.
It's a bit pasty. It's dry, but it's got a nice smooth finish to it. So the texture of it is going to be a smooth cheese, a soft cheese. This is a go-to recipe for a lot of my customers. This is how we demo it when we're trying to introduce people to sorghum. It's a recipe that gives good textural contrast as well as good spicy sweet contrast. And like I said, opening up the pack of cheese is probably the most difficult part.
Not too tough.
Not too tough. But get your cheese on the plate. You can leave it in this form, or you can reform it yourself. You're just going to take a little bit of our bourbon smoked pepper. You're going to put this on here. This is going to be the textural component to it. And then the spicy sweet is going to be a little bit of our bourbon vanilla flavored sorghum drizzled right over the top of it.
Oh, that looks so good.
And it's simple.
Yeah,
it's really simple.
You could do this quick if people jumped in on you, if you had unexpected company coming, or again, if you're tailgating or something, it's again a very easy one.
Absolutely. And this is something you can serve with just some sliced fruit, where you take a little bit of the cheese, take some of the pecans that we did earlier right on top of there, right in there. Also goes well with some crusty bread, crackers.
You got that, like just the pastiness, kind of that creaminess of the cheese. And a wood. I feel like I'm walking in the woods on Johns Creek. I mean, you've got that fall with the pecans and the flavor of, dare I say, fall leaves. I mean, there's something, you know, it's got that nutty fall leaf. Oh, I really love it. Yes, a lot of people say tobacco.
Yeah.
I'm from Northern Kentucky, and people down here don't always think tobacco. But yeah, it's kind of got a tobacco background.
It's got a good flavor profile. It's somewhat complex, but it's one of those dishes that's just so simple to put in front of people.
So all we did was cheese, a little bit of a spicy pepper that's ground very coarse, and a little bit of sorghum.
That's it.
And just we dressed it up with some nuts and some apples. We served this on a crusty bread. We need something to wash that down with, Matt. Before y'all got here, I heated up some apple cider. Now, not apple juice, apple cider. It's a little bit different. It's got a little bit different texture. This is available locally at Food City. And what I did was I just plopped some apple cider in a pot back here. And I threw in some cinnamon sticks. Now, cinnamon sticks are made from the bark. They just come out and they bark the trees down in Central America. They just kind of roll the bark from the tree. Smell it. Want that cinnamon, you know, real tasty, and you just throw it in your apple cider and you mull it off. Now you could serve this hot with just for your kids, or you could chill it down, which is what I did today. I went and chilled some. And I put it in a shaker. Now, I'm not telling you if there's anything else in here, but you might guess there might be a Kentucky product in here. And anytime you've got something you want to chill down, if you put a little bit of the ice cubes in here and you shake it really good, I mean, it gets like bone cold, you know, it makes your teeth hurt. So I've got this spicy apple cider. And I'm going to pour this off. It's got a little strainer in it so the ice cubes don't come through. So we have a little bit of these cocktails. And Matt has great knife skills, so he's already garnished with apples. Y'all know the Apple Festival down in Paintsville is coming up. And then I'm going to take sorghum. And I'm going to drizzle this over. Now, you can do this with a little bit of bourbon in it or not. But I really recommend doing these drizzles, especially if you've got kids. Kids love this. Adults do too. But kids get really fascinated when you dress a drink. This is a good way to get them to drink apple juice. Surprisingly, I've done this with orange juice. And orange juice combined with a little bit of sorghum is a pretty amazing thing. And most of the things we've done here today have been kind of on the sweet side. But Matt, we know you can use sorghum for savory. We talk about baked beans with sorghum instead of brown sugar. We talk about barbecue pork.
Two of our products use the sorghum as the flavor agent in the sauce. We do the barrel-aged Worcestershire, where we're using the sorghum rather than high fructose corn syrup. And we have our other one, the Kentucky Yaki, which is our grilling sauce, where we're using sorghum and bourbon, and then all the other usual players you'd find in a teriyaki. But it makes it more Kentucky.
Now this was the Linton Hopkins brittle that we did. Started earlier, that was the popcorn. Tell me what it tastes like.
Absolutely incredible.
That was...
This is actually all that's left of it.
All right.
I've been snacking on it the whole time.
Well, you know what they say on Friends Drift In, Matt?
Wait a minute. I've been going over and over in my head what we're going to say.
Share the giggles.
Cheers.